There it is.
Is my picture showing up?
It is not.
Oh, that's kind of strange.
Yeah, it is. Just take a second, get it worked out. Everything will get worked out. Hey, everybody, here we are. We're live with Thursday Night Book Club. We're doing Brand 4. Isn't it Brand 4?
No, it's Eddard 4.
I mean, that's what I meant. Eddard 4. Shoot. Stupid. All right.
Well,
and we've been streaming on this
second.
channel, but she is having some family stuff go on, so we're gonna continue, and she's fine with that. So just want everybody to know that we're not doing anything Misha doesn't know about, because we wouldn't do that. And I want to send prayers out to her and her family while they get everything going that they need to get going. And yeah. Okay, so we're here to talk about Eddard 4.
Okay,
let's do this.
All right, let's. I'm just trying to pull the chat up on my phone so I can watch the chat. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sitting out link to make sure everybody knows.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and okay, I'm in chat. Okay. Hi, Tom.
Tom's here.
Okay, do you want me to do the overview, Bran, or do you want to?
I got it.
Okay, you go ahead then, and I'm gonna watch the chat. And we've got Agirlis with us here tonight. So happy about that. One of my all-time favorite guests.
Oh, you're the best, Jen. Thank you. Always sweet. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Anytime.
Eddard, is it 4 or 5? I'm so confused.
4 on the thing, so I hope like hell it's 4, but I might have got confused as well. But from now on, I'm gonna write down.
Well, anyway, it starts out with Pycelle and Eddard. Eddard's doing some little snooping around. And they have a good little conversation. Then let's see. What happened goes next? I forgot. I done forgot. That's real good. I'm slacking.
You know, I believe they're in Pycelle's chambers, and he goes there to basically get the 411 on exactly Pycelle felt like what went on with John Aaron.
Yeah, hold on one second. I get my notes up here. Okay. Or our notes, I should say.
Agirlis, let me ask you a question.
Of course, go ahead.
In the very beginning of the chapter, when he's sitting there talking to Pycelle, Pycelle tells him that wine no longer agrees with him, but that some honeyed milk. And then when the milk comes, Eddard says, man, this is too sweet to drink. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is a clue for what he thinks about what Pycelle is saying? Just just feeding him sweet words.
Yes, Bran and I were
Well, he's gagging the whole time too.
Exactly.
Yes, it's so sweet. He's gagging,
choking on the sweetness of everything he's trying to say to him. But he's not really buying it. He doesn't not buy it, but he knows something he's not getting the full story.
Right. No.
Okay, so basically, they start out in Pycelle's chamber. They have a nice long talk, and then I guess they get word of Bran's how he's woke up. So they decide to go to the Godswood and have a vigil. And while Arya and Sansa both fall asleep, they wake up and the chapter's over. There's not a whole lot of moving around going on. It's more based in 2 specific locations.
No, not at all. Not a lot of movement at all.
No. But in those 2 places, there's a lot going on. I mean, you've already brought up on the sweetness and the honeyed words, you could say.
Very much so. Very much. I honeyed words, lies. That's one thing I picked on from the beginning. But Bran already told me y'all found some excellent nuggets in this chapter. So go ahead, Bran. I just wanted to say that. But first, let me just say to everybody, thank y'all so much for supporting me, for supporting us. It has been so long since I had streamed live from my channel. I actually kind of forgot how to for a minute. And that's where the testicle difficulties had come in right at the beginning. But thank you for sticking it out, guys. And, you know, gotta all these old hinges sometimes.
I'm glad you figured it out, because I brought up, well, maybe we can do it on our channel. And she said, yeah, walk me through it. I said, oh, shit.
Right. But I got it. It's cool. And one day I'll be happy to show you guys how to do it. There's really not much to it. Once you remember, it's just about 4 steps. You make the event, then you say you want to start the event. It'll pull up a Hangout call, and then you get everybody online and you hit the button that says start broadcasting. And that's about all there is to it. I'd be happy to show y'all one day in a Hangout call, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out sometime.
Tom, Cammie, Mary B, Marie, Sanchez, everybody who's in the chat. Okay, Bran, go for it, buddy.
All right. I'm pulling up my notes right now. Well, I can't take credit for half these notes. Me and Agirlis, we both sat down and done them together. We read through the chapter together, and a lot of really neat stuff we found.
Yeah, and everybody in the chat, I talked to Bran early this morning, and I said, well, I didn't see too much. And he's like, Jennifer, you better go back and read again, girl. This chapter was chock through of little nuggets and information. About every 2 sentences, me and Agirlis had to stop and go, ooh, did you get that? So I did so, and I don't know. Maybe the first time I read it, I just wasn't paying attention, but that's how a reread is. So that's why we do this. All right, yeah. Bran, that's all I have to say. Go ahead, babe.
I thought it was odd that he rang the little bell, and they've got somebody right there, female to be precise, too, at his beck and call. I don't know. It felt a little weird to me that he just rang a bell and they were there. I mean, it's not loud or anything, but they were ready for him.
Right.
And pointed out that
it's a tiny bell, and he rang it gently. So yes, I agree. Yeah. No, it's just agreeing with you. It's a very tiny bell.
Mm-hmm. They said the Maester Pycelle had a jeweled chain. I just want to know why his chain is jeweled. I mean, do Grand Maesters have jeweled chains, or why? He's got his bling going on.
Right. Never heard about that. Never heard about a jeweled chain about any other Maester.
Mm-mm. No, exactly. I mean, all the other Maesters we know of have all the different metals and links. It's no jewels. Right. Pycelle says mines are like swords. The old ones go to rust. And go ahead with that one, Agirlis. You take that one.
I can't pull up my notes.
Okay.
Are you going to go to the fact that Tyrion says basically the opposite thing?
Well, we were just pointing out the comment. It immediately brought to attention the crypts.
Tyrion has said in another chapter that a mine needs a stone, like a sword needs a stone.
Well, he also says his mind is old, and that old mines go to rust.
Right, that took us back to the crypts of Winterfell, because that's the only other time that I recall rusted swords really being highlighted or emphasized. So it struck me as very peculiar that he would call his mind a sword and then call it rusted, especially because we know the Pycelle's mind is not rusted. He's very sharp, and he's very in tune with what's going on. He just feigns like he's old and doesn't know.
Which we see a lot of that through the whole tirade between the two. Maester Pycelle says something, then he completely contradicts himself, then he completely contradicts himself again, then it just one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
The chat is so funny. They're blowing up. But you know what? And we got a taste of this in the TV show. Like, I know a lot of times the book, but that's one thing that they really caught on to was the fact that Pycelle does put on a facade, that he's sharp as can be and pretends like he's not, and plays this little feeble, doddering fool act when we know that that's far from the truth.
And that's still early in the series too, so we know Martin had pull in that a lot more.
Mm-hmm. And had those intentions all along.
Yeah. It tells us that Maester Coleman was actually Sweet Robin and John Arryn's Maester, and then Pycelle comes and takes him off because he was purging him with wasting potions and pepper juice.
Yes.
We kind of tried to search what those were and couldn't really come up with anything. But
I mean, I think we're just supposed to take it from context that a wasting potion is what it sounds like.
Right.
It's a cleanser, pretty much. Because when we searched for it, nothing else came up. Well, video game wasting potions came up, but I don't, we can count on that.
But then why? I mean, what he was cleansing the body. He was purging the body. Why would you stop purging? Because Pycelle immediately stops all purging. He stops all wasting. It draws the question: does Pycelle know that he's being poisoned, or is Pycelle involved in this in some way or the other, or is he just being an idiot and not knowing what he's really doing?
That bothers me because he makes a point to say that he doesn't think that there's a Maester as skilled as Maester Coleman. He completely trusts them and looks at him as
like a son.
And trusts his judgment and his healing and his knowledge of potions. He completely trusts him. So him taking John Arryn away just doesn't sit right. Especially because what harm is ever going to come from a cleanser? I don't care if you're 80 or 90, it's a cleanser. So I call BS on that.
Let's see. Oh, and it says when he tells him when John Arryn was dying that Robert came and sat hours and just talked to him. That any conversation I've had with anybody, whether alive, dying, whatever, I don't think I could sit there and have a one-sided conversation for hours on end.
No.
I mean, eventually you would run out of things to say, or, thought process. I mean, I haven't been put in that situation often, but it's not something easily done.
Well, I have sat beside someone who was leaving this world, and I've not sat there for hours. I mean, half an hour, and then you have to get up and you have to go, get your mind right because they're not responding and they're sick and you don't want to appear sad or whatever else. But to sit there for hours, there's no response coming back. What do you say? Is he sighing as John Arryn? Is he making any kind of communication whatsoever? Is what I wonder. To sit there for hours.
Right, and here's some of the contradictions. Like he pulled Maester Coleman off John Arryn, but he says he's like his child. What was it? Crap. Oh, and he says his mind's a rusted sword. It's going to rust, but yet he takes the younger, brighter, somebody he fully trusts off the healing process. It's one of the contradictions that we noticed. Then, like you pointed out, Jen, the gagging on the sweet wine, the BS that Pycelle is serving everybody. Where was that? Summer Hall, Pycelle, and a few others.
He mentions the book. he mentions the book that John Aaron had checked out, says he was healthy as a horse. Then the next day he was doubled over in pain, could not even leave his bed. And that, you know, aside from being old, he considered John Aaron to be in pretty good health. Mm-hmm. Then Eddard leaves and comes upon.
Well, wait. We got a lot more here.
Okay, go ahead.
Summerhall. Pycelle was at Summerhall.
Oh, yeah, they do mention Summerhall.
And he's one of the few that survived. And then he goes through all these kings that he served, and I mean, just why mention them? I mean,
why?
Everybody knows he's been the Grand Maester. Why you gotta? What's he doing? You know, peacock. They're putting his peacock tail out, or what?
Right, he goes all the way back to Maekar. Like,
I know, yeah,
summer Maekar was king. I was earning my Maester's link. It's like, oh.
And I think that's what he was doing. Was that he was reiterating? Y'all don't think? I took it like he was just reiterating that he had been there a long time, seen a lot of stuff, and yeah, you know, I've been a Grand Maester since Maekar. You know, just trying to posture for Eddard so that Eddard takes him at face value, basically. Which is what he kind of tries to do. He kind of tries to shut down anybody who is a little bit suspicious of the death. And we know later that he really didn't play a part in it, but that he did not stop it from happening. I think Maester Coleman might have saved John Aaron if it wasn't for the fact that Pycelle came along, because that's what he needed. He had been poisoned. And when you're poisoned, normally they make you take charcoal, which absorbs poison, and you also throw it up. So I took that to mean that's what Coleman was doing. And Pycelle came along and was like, okay, he knows what he's doing. He might actually survive. And he's always been, like you said, Tywin's agent, Cersei's agent. And he knows why he wanted the book. I just know that we know that it was Littlefinger and Lysa who poisoned him.
Right. So it becomes a question of, did he stop Coleman from treating them because he was trying to look out for the Lannisters and he wanted John Aaron to die? Or was he just really being facetious? And like you, I lean towards the first. He's a Lannister agent, and I believe that he knew that those Lannister babes were not Robert Baratheons. So he was protecting them.
Well, he probably, you know, was in the birthing chamber. He probably gave birth to them. So, I mean, if anybody knows, it would be him.
Right, and Jamie also made sure that he was there for the birthing process. Or was that only show? Was that show?
I don't know. I'm sure we'll run across it when we get there. Lysa, you know, and all her stillbirths. Could that have been something more than just not being able to have kids? Could there have been some moon tea involved, or some other poison just stopping her from having births? Because she is, I mean, there is a bloodline there that could produce a powerful ward. With the, what was it, Donella and the Winged Knight. You know, they're both ward bloods, and it very well could produce something like that. And then Lysa starts seeing enemies in every shadow, it says. Now, did Baelish convince her of these enemies, or is Pycelle just lying? Lysa obviously knows who kills her husband.
Right.
I mean, she
also.
Go ahead.
Also, the fact that she's kind of crazy now. I am one of those people who highly believe that the Citadel and the Maesters are up to no good. They have been trying to suppress magic, dragons, Targaryens for some time. And within Lysa's bloodline, like you said, within Sweet Robin's and Lysa's bloodline, there's some special powers. For Lysa, she is related to Danielle Lofston, who was a warg, who was a woman of prestige, great power, and abilities. She led troops. She fought battles. Now, of course, she went crazy later on, or so we are told she went crazy later on, but we know that she was powerful. So were they afraid that Lysa was going to produce more children who would be magic enabled? I, for one, still think that Sweet Robin is a warg and magic enabled, and that's why they keep giving him high doses of medicine. I think that they're trying to suppress it. That's just
I think there's a high probability that he could have some kind of warring ability.
I think he is, and that's one of the things I can't wait to see in the next book is where the whole Sweet Robin story is going. I hope we get some of that.
Yes, I am highly interested in him. It's the only thing that still intrigues me about the Sansa chapter. So, yes, please, more Sweet Robin.
That's all right. I'm a bit of a Sansa fan, but I hope that she doesn't act ugly to Sweet Robin. I hope she doesn't go that way, of being a killer. But okay, Bran.
Well, I personally think that Lynn Corbray is going to actually be molesting Sweet Robin. He's going to get caught.
That's cold. That's dark.
Well, Peter says that's how he reveals that Lynn Corbray's his agent and that he pays him in boys. So why not the little boy that he has complete control over? And then I think Peter's gonna twist it so he gets caught with Sweet Robin. But also, when we think about it, all these warring abilities are usually manifested through a traumatic experience. Look at Bran; he got pushed out of a window. Look at Arya; she lost her entire family, and now she's went across. That may be the trigger to manifest his warring abilities.
I really love that theory. I'm still sticking to mine, where I think that on the way to this great tourney that they're supposed to be having, that Sweet Robin and Sansa get kidnapped by the mountain clans. Because we have two things that are happening. We're preparing for this major event, and we know anytime George sets us up for some great event that's going to happen, we never get to it.
True.
So I don't believe that the tournament's even going to occur. And I say the mountain clans because we're missing them in the story so far. We haven't seen most of them. And we know that they're heavily armed now and better armed. And their whole point in getting those arms was to take over the Vale for themselves. So why not then steal the future Lord?
And really, if you think about it, Sweet Robin and Sansa are actually the two most important people at the Vale. But if they disappear, they put everybody else's situation a little bit better. So it might be the case that they get kidnapped, people move, to power positions, and then they come back and whoop that ass. That's what I'd like to see.
Right? Because they're both potential wargs. George has told us that all the Stark babes are wargs. So we know we have one in Sansa. And we are greatly speculating that we have one in Sweet Robin. So we could have two very powerful wargs team up and come back and really shut some things down, Jen.
And not only that, it could be even go a step further and be skin changers. And they could be able to control multiple animals and not just the direwolves or a wolf.
And the mountain clans, I believe, are kind of like
their first man.
Yeah, so they would be okay with it. They would be okay with it, yeah.
The only thing I wonder about is Sansa. She's one of the few people who looks more Tully than Stark, so I do wonder if they're going to recognize that she has first man blood. Because Jon's easy. Jon looks like a Stark, but Sansa doesn't. But maybe the traumatic experience will just trigger her abilities, and so they will see her and want to keep her and use her ability.
I'm almost leaning towards that we'll see hers manifest in a different route. I really like the idea that she's more manipulating people in small ways, like the Hound, that being her stand-in dog.
Well, they do always have her with birds.
They do.
So we get in the prologue of the one with what is it, the prologue in Dance with Varamir Sixskins?
Yeah.
He says something about birds not being that great of a conduit.
They fear, and they also fly too high once you begin flying.
He said it's not good to get trapped inside of a bird.
Right. We know from Blood Raven that
birds and ravens and crows actually make great messengers. Great messengers.
Marie does not think that Robin, that Sweet Robin can warg.
I would have to disagree because he's hearing singing all the time. And no one else in the entire castle or the Vale is hearing the singing that he's hearing. But we know
he could be just crazy. I mean, he really could just have a madness.
It's really just being revealed.
We know that there's a werewood throne in there as well, and that they still hold the souls of the children of the forest. And so if he is a skin changer, he would be able to hear them. And also his very nickname, which is Sweet Robin, doesn't necessarily make sense for his name. His name is Robert, from Robert Baratheon. I believe he's been nicknamed Robin to allude to birds, to allude to the falcon that his ancestors rode, way back when, to allude to Danielle Lawson and the bats that she rode. So I think he's being called a bird, not only to connect him to Sansa, who is a sweet bird, of course, but to connect him to his ancestors who were skin changers.
Nice.
Marie Hill asks, does anybody think that Bran is going to drown in one of his visions?
I don't, but I've been saying lately that I think we're going to see at the end of the books, I believe it's going to be Sam writing the books, but it's going to be Bran narrating everything. I think he's going to be able to, see beyond the werewoods, be able to see through the POVs and him describing everything.
All right, let's jump back in the chapter, y'all. So we're at Bran. So we're at Eddard wrapping up his meeting with Pycelle.
Nope.
Is that not where we're at? Okay.
We're not wrapping up. Pycelle, he names off all these poisons and then turns around and says, we're not the free cities. Poison ain't common around here. And when Ned points out that maybe John may have been poisoned, Pycelle had just named off like 6 different poisons. Right. And then turns around and says, no, we're not the free cities. the Lord Aaron didn't display any of the signs of a poisoning.
He didn't display signs of a common poison, is what he said.
Common poison, yes, correct. Common poison. But we know that is a blatant lie because we know from later in the books that Lysa poisoned him. So, again, where's his loyalties lying? Pycelle is. I actually asked a girl, could Pycelle be in Baelish's pocket too? I mean, just getting a little kickback from Baelish on occasion. I mean, he may have been involved from the very beginning on Peter's side instead of the Lannisters.
I don't think that he would ever be against the Lannisters. I think I can buy that he is in Peter's pocket. Like there's some little favor that Peter does for him, and they have like a little quid pro quo. I can buy that, but I don't think that he would ever defect.
Right, but that's not betraying the Lannisters in any way. That's actually improving the Lannisters' position. So I can see him working with Peter in that regard to get rid of Jon Arryn.
Like a double agent, is what you're saying.
He works for the Lannisters, but, Baelish throws him a little bit of whatever here and there to help him out. Yeah, I guess it's double agent.
I wonder about that only because it's well known that Eddard is like a brother to Robert Baratheon. And so he was the next likely choice to be handed the king. So in getting rid of Jon Arryn, we know Peter's intentions, but how would it benefit Pycelle to have Eddard at the capital? Because he's difficult to control. Eddard was not easy at all.
I guess they would be able to watch him then.
You can watch Jon Arryn too. So still, what would be the purpose in getting rid of one?
Jon Arryn got too close, though. Jon Arryn got too close. How many times does Baelish say that the Northmen are thick or Starks are thick and they're quick to anger, but
Slow to wits.
thick or low on wits. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I could see them thinking they have a better chance of outwitting Ned than Jon Arryn.
It's possible. I mean, we know that's not true of Eddard, but it doesn't mean that Peter doesn't think that of him. So I can see that. That still speaks to Peter and not Pycelle. So you're saying that Pycelle also thinks that the Starks are dim-witted?
He may not have a chicken in that race.
I mean, if he's helping him, he's an intelligent man, is what I'm saying. Pycelle is not without. So being an intelligent man, would he help Peter to get rid of Jon Arryn, knowing that Eddard would be the next likely choice as hand of the king, and Eddard being younger and full of all of this honor, something that the Lannisters are not high on? That's my only thing. It's one of the things I should say.
Obviously, he had to, because he did give him the actual book that Jon Arryn was looking at. You know, I mean, he had to assume that Ned wouldn't have figured it out.
That's true.
If he knew, I guess.
That's true too. Because we know Eddard's not dead. He went immediately and requested the book that Jon Arryn was reading. So, good points made. Okay. I'm done. Sorry.
Moster is
on that book though. Even Pycelle did try to lead him off. That Pycelle was like, "Oh, just a ponderous old tomb." Tried to play down the significance of the book and why he wanted the book, etc. And there is a chance that if Ned hadn't had the other people to lead him to the little field trips Jon Arryn had taken, he wouldn't have figured out what that book was about at all.
That could be argued too.
And was it the field trips, or was it Arya stating that she wouldn't be anything like Sansa, and that Joffrey is nothing like Robert, that he's more like a Lannister? And Sansa was arguing against that, saying that no, he's a Baratheon like his father, and Arya repeating, no, he's nothing like his father.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I forgot about
golden babies with golden curls and blah 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 blah, and that's when he has the great epiphany that
at the dinner table that goes down, right? Maybe that's what that bell's about. I mean, it gets brought up very early and it seems insignificant, but basically a bell goes off in Ned's head.
It does. It does. It's weird because when I think of bells in A Song of Ice and Fire, I think of two things. Number one, the Dothraki, because the bell is a symbol of power and of conquest with them. And number two, it's a city in Essos where they use the bells to do everything. Like the bell tells you when to eat, the bell tells you when to sleep, the bell tells you when to pray. So those are the two instances in A Song of Ice and Fire that bells are a real huge feature. So it is kind of weird that he has this tiny little bell and he commands so much power with it.
Well,
the bells are, the bells symbolize power in the Dothraki too. I mean, it very well, and I mean, I can totally see what you're saying there. I mean, this little bell, and I mean, people are there immediately to be at his beck and call.
Yeah, so we know that they represent power and control so far. So we get that with the bells.
Okay, it says, what sort of monster in man's flesh would poison Jon Arryn? Or Pycelle says that. And, I mean, we obviously know it's Baelish and Lysa behind it. So that's
what kind of monster.
I mean, there's your monster right there. But then the next line, it says, I've heard it said that poison is a woman's weapon. I mean, it tells us right there that the man and a woman, concocted the plan together. You know, monster in man's flesh and poison is a woman's weapon. I mean, we know Baelish is a monster in man's flesh, and there's the woman to poison him. There's a nice little foreshadowing for us, a reveal later on. I think this is when they were leaving. Above them, a raven cawed after Pycelle blamed women cravens and eunuchs. Oh yeah, he said that's what it was. He said that poison was women, craven, and eunuchs that used poisons, and we had the raven call. And go ahead, Aggie, you go with that one. You pointed that out.
Yeah, it just to me took me all the way back to Peter in the Bible, because we know that George R. R. Martin loves to interweave religion with his works of art. He does it really well. And this takes me back to Peter in the Bible when he claims that he doesn't know Jesus 3 different times. And Jesus says, when a cock crows 3 times, you would have claimed to have not known me.
Yeah, you'll
so basically, a lie or a deception with the crow calling. And here Pycelle says something in the crow calls, or how you pronounce that. I apologize. So yeah, I just thought that it had a little bit of symmetry right there.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I was checking the chat. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an interesting, like I pointed out to her, Baelish, when she finally gets back to, or when he finally takes Sansa to the fingers, if you know anything about Peter, he is the rock of the church, the foundation, and then he's the shepherd of men, or how, I can't remember the exact term it's used, but if you look at Baelish's chapter when they get to the get back to the fingers, it says sheep about 50 times and rock about 75. I mean, he specifically keeps saying that my sheep and rock, my sheep and rock, sheep and rock. Okay. I mean, there's a strong parallel between Peter and Peter.
Excuse me, Bran. And yeah, and we've got House Sanchez in the chat. Aggie, he wants you to go over that again, the parallels between Peter, the apostle, and Peter Baelish again, if you don't mind.
Oh, no problem. No, it just reminded me of Peter denying Christ 3 different times, and then the cock crowed. It just struck me as weird. Because when
I think on the third, isn't it the third time he refuses him, the cock will crow or something, and he'll know that he'd been refused?
Yeah, that's exactly what he tells him.
That is exactly right, Bran. It's the 3rd time he denies him, the cock crows.
Okay, we got to thank you from the chat for going back over that. And that is a really good catch. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you.
Where are we at?
Okay, I found my notes.
Oh,
so now we're getting to the heart tree, Jim. Now we leave, and I guess they get a bird. The raven says that Bran has woke up, and so Ned decides to take Sansa and Arya to the Godswood to have a vigil. And the first thing we find out when we walk in there is they don't have a werewood; they have a elm or an oak. Well,
it's an oak
as the heart tree. It's an oak as a heart tree. It still has the face carved in it. It's still acting as a werewood, but it's not an actual werewood.
I don't know if it has a face carved into it. Does it?
Yeah, it said it did. It said it did. I remember it did. And they say Ned gives an offering to the tree. What is this offering that it gives? Only thing I can imagine would be blood, but you don't hear of anybody cutting themselves.
Right, he gives Thanksgiving, and I could.
Oh yeah, that's it, Thanksgiving.
But all night, because he holds an all-night vigil, which again takes me back, of course, to Christ. In an all-night vigil he held with the whole "Let this cup pass me" right before he was supposed to get crucified, and he also had, I believe, 2 people sit with him, who fell asleep, much like Sansa and Arya fell asleep, but he still continued to stay awake and hold his vigil all night. So that we have hours unaccounted for where the girls are asleep, but we don't really know what Eddard is doing. Like how is he giving Thanksgiving? Is he doing a chant? Is it a prayer? What is he doing for hours?
He just got his head bowed in prayer. I mean, is he sharpening his blade? We don't know. That's
right. And
it could be anything. Well, I mean, they go till dawn because that's when Sansa and Arya wake up is at dawn, and
Right.
Sansa, the first thing Sansa says is, I had a dream of Bran. He was smiling. If we know anything, that Bran wouldn't be smiling. He has been paralyzed. He's angry at everybody, especially the crow that told him he could fly. But if we remember the chapter before, Tyrion had just showed up and gave him the saddle. So that gives us a good timeline. Good idea on timeline too.
Mm-hmm. You caught that. That is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. And it's one of the like you're saying, it's a really good time to see where everybody is at this particular point, which there must be a reason why we can do that, because we can't always do that with these books.
No, well, I'm sure there are more than we've realized. Like that one, I mean, I didn't really catch that until we read it the other day, and it dawned on me that, I mean, because I had just led the Bran chapter, the chapter before. That's the only reason I remembered it right off, because I mean, it was something that I had touched on,
And it's also probably been a while since he smiled.
Exactly. We know he wouldn't have been smiling. We knew he was an angry boy. He had just been woken up from this coma that now he's completely paralyzed. Everything he's ever wanted is taken away from him. He'll never be able to do any of it. And we see him get a glimpse of joy from a saddle, being able to ride again. And that would cause a boy to smile. And that would be the only reason that he would be smiling in Sansa's dream, because, they definitely play a part together, the dreams and Bran.
Good catch, you guys.
And let's see. Then it says, when dawn broke over the city, dark red blooms of dragon's breath surrounded the girls where they lay. We spent quite a while looking up, trying to figure out what the hell a dragon's breath flower is, and I mean, we found a couple instances of what things called dragon breath, but I don't understand why the children are surrounded by dragon's breath. It's almost like either a protective shroud or a death threat almost.
We know one thing about dragon's breath, and this is in real life, and I'm assuming it's also for the story, because we hear Pycelle say over and over and over again how hot it is, how this is one of the hottest summers, how people keep complaining about the heat, blah 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 blah, and we know that dragon's breath, after researching it, only blooms when it's extremely hot and extremely dry. So it needs those two elements to bloom.
Tropical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tropical plant.
Right. And so our thing was, well, why did it bloom when they woke up? And why is it surrounding them specifically?
And overnight.
Overnight. And I thought it meant that they grew overnight, because that's not their natural state. It usually takes them 5 to 7 days to grow or bloom. And Bran brought it up to me that because they went at night to hold the vigil, that the blooms were probably closed. And so they had already sprouted, or whatever the case may be. And they just closed because it was night and then reopened in the morning. But the fact that
there are many, many flowers that do that, I found out.
Mm-hmm. The fact that it's specifically dragon's breath is the key, though. People are not really tying the Starks and dragons together at all, which perturbs me greatly. Because
here we go.
We are going there.
We're going there. All right.
Go there.
Because we do hear it later on in Bran's chapters when he's forced to leave Winterfell due to Ramsay taking it over, that the towers are on fire, and that a dragon emerges from the broken tower and throws flames across the sky, and it's Bran's direwolf that catches this. Now, many people dismiss this, but I can't. A direwolf has no reason to have any kind of apparitions, or apparitions. It has no reason to make something up. It has no reason to do anything but to report what it sees. Also, it says that the sky is full of flames. So why would Ramsay set the castle on fire? It's not like Theon had so many men. He didn't. Theon was surrounded. Theon was outdone. There was no reason for Ramsay to burn the castle. I think that the flames would come from that dragon that was at Winterfell. And there's no, to me, there's reason to believe that there are not dragon eggs all around the north. Because even before the Targaryens came with their dragons, there had been wild dragons. And what better place for wild dragons to be than in vast open environments and leave caches of eggs everywhere, especially because beneath the grounds, there are volcanoes. That's one of the things that are that I believe are heating the springs and the walls of Winterfell. Is probably underground volcanic activity, and I think that there are probably lots of dragon eggs down there.
It would have to be volcanic activity. I mean, there's nothing else that would cause that kind of heat. Now, as far, I mean, I'm not no geophysicist or anything, but I would assume, I think it's safe to assume that there's not really any energy producing whatever.
And so we don't know all that's happening in that volcanic layer.
Yes, she does, Sanchez.
There can be an entire ecosystem down there of wyverns, of fireworms, and of little dragons. We don't know. And what we know about wyverns is they're pretty much dragons that don't spit fire. So there could be tons of stuff in the volcanoes under Winterfell that we're not aware of. But we do know that a dragon hatched from a tower. So
and now I'm going to refute that.
Do it.
Okay. We learn in the same chapter that direwolves see swords as human claws. They're not actual, they don't refer to them as swords. They don't refer to them, they see them as claws. So to me, it's all symbolic. Anything they see like that would be symbolic. They've seen dragons before, you know, in their consciousness. It's an animal. They would associate it with an animal. I mean, it could have very well been a fucking cloud as far as I know, but I do not believe it was an actual dragon. I think the dragon that we find in Winterfell will be Jon.
There's still symmetry between claws and swords. It's still a sharp thing. And what the dragon is seeing is a winged serpent. So what are we going to say is akin to a winged serpent except for a dragon? I mean, if we're making those comparisons and saying, well, what they see is vague and not precise, well, he saw a winged serpent.
So a winged serpent. Would a smoke rising from a tower, would that not look like a serpent?
Okay, no. Marie Hill agrees with you about the volcanoes, but she thinks the dragon in of itself is prophetic. Okay.
I think it's Jon. I mean, it's
okay. That's from the chat. I'm not sure. I do think there's volcanoes down there, but yes, I don't know if there's a dragon or not. I think it could go either way. I'm not sure. You know, I know what you're talking about when they're escaping the castle and Bran looks back and he really thinks he sees a dragon.
Yes.
Well, he's looking through the direwolf's eyes. He's not seeing through his.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
And
Marie said why he sees it is because Bran is a prophet.
That I am. I mean.
But I still have to wonder why the castle would be on fire. There's no reason for Ramsay to burn the castle. He can take it without burning.
Yes, he could, but we find out that it's burnt and destroyed right after that anyway. So it does get burnt. It does get destroyed.
But I'm saying, what burns stone? What fire is Ramsay going to create to burn stone?
It doesn't. It doesn't burn the stone.
No, it does. It destroys the top of the tower. So yes, it does. So the stone is destroyed by fire. Dragonfire would have no problem destroying that.
I'll have to look that again. But at the same time, your support beams are made of wood. If your support is gone, then your structure's gone.
That's true too. But it's a broken tower, not a collapsed tower, Bran.
The broken tower was struck by lightning and it collapsed.
Is it collapsed or just broken from the top?
Something like that. It's like busted at the top.
It's just, it's just broken at the top.
I honestly think he put that in there so that we would sit on a show like this and speculate about it. I really do, because from what I've read about the structures of Winterfell, honestly, I took them to be stone.
The Night Fort.
But have, they definitely have wood roofs or whatever, because we see during the rebuilding of the Great Hall and when they rebuild it, what they use and whatnot. So
Winterfell was the original Night Fort.
Okay, we know you believe that, Brett.
Just so you know.
I mean, it could be. It could be.
I can buy that one. I love that one.
And I think that's the reason, that he doesn't give us everything right at face value.
Ooh, good point, Sanchez.
That's a good thing. Let's see, what does Sanchez say? Well, Bran doesn't see past visions as well. Didn't Winterfell burn years ago before Ramsay and Theon?
It did. It did burn. I don't remember exactly I know it burnt, though. I do know it burnt.
Says she believes that it's foreshadowing that Jon or the dragons will return to Winterfell. Either that Jon's the dragon or that there will be dragons at Winterfell in the near. I see what she's saying. She believes maybe, it could even be that it was burning and that Bran saw smoke or whatever form into a dragon. And
damn, that's another good point. But
and because he's
seeing through the dire wolf. He's seeing through the dire wolf. So I'm assuming he was seeing actual events happening as they played out. I mean, I don't think he would.
It's prophetic.
No, I'm talking about Sanchez's comment that why could Bran's visions be something from the past? He's actually seeing the past happen in a dragon rise, but he is seeing through the dire wolf's eyes. So I would assume it would be as it's happening.
Yeah, I agree. But it could be, that's why I tell you that George R. Martin. One clever son of a gun, that's for sure.
All right, where are we at here? Oh, and this beautiful line here.
Yes, quote that. Use the quote.
Did you write the quote? Ned looks at Arya, kisses her on the forehead, and says, "You will marry a king and rule a castle, and your sons will be knights and princesses and lords. Yes, perhaps even a high septon." Tells Arya this when he knows his other daughter is betrothed to the king or the prince.
Right.
So to me, what I pointed out to her was I think this was Martin's original outline coming into play, that where he was going to have the love triangle between Tyrion, Arya, and Jon being king, or Tyrion being king, either way, I guess. But then the very next line, Arya says, "No, that's Sansa." So there's another huge foreshadowing of, is Sansa going to sit the throne at the end?
Well, I see this as complete foreshadowing for either one of two things. Either it's going to be Sansa who ends up being a queen, or either it's going to be Arya because she was like, "No, that's Sansa." So kind of a reversal thing. And Sansa's direwolf's name is Nymeria, and we all know she was a really great warrior queen.
It could be saying that they're both queens.
Could be.
Yes.
They both may be queens. They may be broken into back like it was before. Each kingdom had its king and queen.
I got my wish. I would like to see Arya and Gendry together, and then rule the Stormlands to Dorne.
Yes, absolutely.
My newest thought is that Gendry's going to end up with Dany.
Huh. I'll accept it. I would rather Arya be with Gendry, but for the books, that doesn't make much sense. For the books, it would make more sense for her to end up with maybe Edric Storm. It's
the two ruling lines, and that's kind of how it plays out with the War of the Roses. The bastardized, the legitimized bastard line marries the Elizabeth, and it's combining the two ruling factions. I mean, yes, it's about Stark and Lannister, but the Starks have never ruled. The Baratheons have, and the Targaryens have. So I don't know. It's something I'm playing with, an idea I've been playing with.
Well, like I say pretty often, what I want to happen and what is probably going to happen are two very separate things, always.
And it could be that we're getting
That's the wrong story.
It could be that we're
Sanchez.
getting fake Aegon. What did Sanchez say?
Sorry. He said breaking the wheel.
He thinks maybe perhaps we'll end up with 7 different factions. I don't think 7, but maybe like 3.
I would love it if it returned back to 7. I wouldn't mind that at all.
I wouldn't either.
Either or.
All right, Marie, where's that coming from? Marie says in the book she thinks Cersei will be queen. I think she'll be queen for a time.
I've been really considering Cersei will survive, actually, through the end of it. I've really kind of been considering that as an option.
I don't think we'll either.
Okay. So much we can't wait for her to die.
Excuse me.
I got a question for everybody.
I'll be right back. Y'all go ahead.
I've got a question for everybody. If all this foreshadowing about Cersei becoming the Night Queen, the others take my wife, all as cold as ice. If she becomes the Night Queen, what are the chances Jaime becomes the Night King?
Ooh.
I mean, we know that they're splitting up, but at the same time, he could be the savior figure to go off with the Night Queen and save Westeros.
It could be. It could be Bran. I would not doubt that at all. I would not put that past George. No. I still want Dany to be the Night's Queen because when Jon awakes, he's most likely going to be a fire white, so he will already be like undead walking around. And it would
I don't think there's going to be a Night's Queen or King.
I do.
But I can't get into that theory yet. I have to write it up first.
Gotcha. So we were still talking about Arya marrying the king. It's still a very curious thing for Ned to say. Even if George R.R. Martin is doing foreshadowing for whatever he's doing it for, it's odd for Ned to say that to Arya because Sansa's Arya the king, and because what other king is there? Even in Dorne, they're styled as princes. So what king?
Princes, yeah. Well, I mean that her bringing up the multiple kings idea that didn't even cross my mind. So I mean that very well could be saying, hey, this is going to happen too. I mean that's a tricky quote right there because it could be taken many different ways. I mean, you could point it like I did at the original outline. You could say, no, well, it's showing Sansa, or it could be showing both. Those are the kind of quotes I like to see.
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
That leave options open.
Because if you're thinking the Stormlands, who's most likely to be the king of that? And the only person I can think of is Edric, being legitimized. And perhaps Aegon can do that during his brief stay because I think Aegon's going to die. I don't see Tommen legitimizing him, but could be. I would love to see that. Though.
Daniel legitimized Gendry, I think, or whichever one it is.
Okay, it could be Dany. Very well, could be.
I mean, she's the queen. Whatever. Oh, I keep
have issues with Baratheons. She hates the Baratheons and the Stark.
We're gonna have to talk after the stream if we can.
Okay.
I've had a few thoughts, but I don't want to.
I want to go over real quick.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Right before the quote that we just went over that was so beautiful, and this is in all italics, which I always find, that does mean something.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it does.
It talks about, and this very much parallels what Maester Aemon says, where they're talking about Bran. He says, but he will never run beside his wolf again, he thought with a sadness too deep for words, or lie with a woman, or hold his own son in his arms. And this is all italicized. And I guess this is Ned thinking about Bran. And we know that when Maester Aemon describes these things, he says this is love and this is the death of duty. And I think this might very well point to whatever role Bran ends up in. It's going to be one that is purely duty.
That is
Oh yeah, he'll serve.
phenomenal catch. And also, Bran and I called BS on that because we know that Bran actually does run inside of Summer. So,
Yeah.
kind of not completely true. Go ahead, Bran.
No, I was agreeing. I mean, he definitely does still run. I mean, he runs inside of Summer. Summer runs, and he is inside her in any way. He gets inside Hodor. He's running inside Hodor. He is able to continue to run,
and we
just not in the physical form.
Yeah, and we also know that there's a connection between he and Mera, and so he could very well lay with the woman and produce a seed for his own child.
I'm just wondering. I mean, a lot of times when somebody is even paralyzed from the waist down, they can still do the deal.
A friend of mine, her mother was a nurse, or his mother was a nurse, and she sat with this guy who was paralyzed from the neck down, and he would make her leave so he could get prostitutes to come in there. That worked fine.
Sanchez has a question. Could the Night King be in revenge mode for his Night Queen, and that's why the others are back?
It could very well be.
Not really in the books, maybe in the show.
Maybe, but I don't see the timeline falling in with that. I mean, he waited a long time to do something, so it has to be something else that happened that was able to even allow him to come back, so to speak. I think there has to be some of that.
In that too, Sanchez, we have to wonder, are they able to produce women? Because we know that Craster only gives sons. And in that, he's given about 99, and Baby Sam was supposed to be the 100. So they're definitely.
We have a corpse queen. Melisandre is definitely the closest thing to a corpse that you will have. She doesn't eat. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't have to do any of this. That's a corpse to me. She's a white of some kind.
She would be a fire white, so she wouldn't be what they were searching for necessarily. At least I don't think she would be. She would be
the blue Melisandre doll. The blue Melisandre doll.
I mean, I think there's definitely going to be a Night's Queen before the end of it.
I don't think it's going to be her. She is definitely the enemy of them, and she's made that very clear.
It's so hard not to go into some of my more in-depth stuff here.
So the other
I've got an answer to it.
We've been wondering. We've kind of been wondering how long the others have been awake, because they didn't just awake. Craster's made it clear that he's been giving sons for many years. If he gave 99 sons, I would say it would have to be at least 10, maybe 20 years that he was giving his boys, and he didn't have.
Hey, BBM. I was saying somebody in the chat.
Go ahead, Aggie.
Broke black man.
So when we're considering why they came back, we have to consider how long ago it was that they actually came back. They didn't just now come back.
We have to consider what it tells us caused them, the others, to attack in the first place. It tells us in the blood betrayal. It blatantly tells us that that's what released the Lion of Night and his demons, and that's what the others were.
When a brother killed his own sister.
When a brother slew his family, kinslaying.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it because I haven't wrote it up.
So we have to wonder who would be powerful enough to make them come back. Because in the case that you mentioned, they were emperors, meaning that they were rulers. So what ruler slew another ruler to make them come back?
Or what prince that was promised?
We have when basically it could be when Aerys Targaryen killed Eddard's killed killed the two Starks, maybe. They were both very powerful, and then we know Stark blood is very powerful. And
yeah, there's a good balance.
What about Blood Raven?
Maybe when he burned that Stark up there in the throne room, that jumped shit off. And that would be in keeping with the timeline of how long Craster has been feeding the children, giving the children sacrifices as well, about 20 years.
Mm-hmm. It could be even further back. It could be Blood Raven because he
killed
his own. He killed his own kin.
There's your answer right there. Blood Raven.
That was his half brother.
I agree. I'm thinking maybe
contender to the throne.
I mean, look at his name, Blood Raven. Who caused the blood betrayal? Bloodstone Emperor. Okay. Right. Well, look at Daemon Blackfire. He is the epitome of a Valyrian, of the Targaryen, the lilac eyes, the pale skin, the white hair.
Absolutely.
There's your blood betrayal. There's what caused the long night. And there's a bittersweet.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, there's your bittersweet.
And then there's the reason he went and sat in that tree. You know, I mean, he knew he had to go.
He's the last hero. He was the last hero. He was going to search out the children. And I haven't wrote it up yet.
I love all of it, Brian. I will not push you any further. I love it all, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, please don't, because I've got this all laid out already. And plus, Ashi will kill me because she's supposed to write part 2.
Well, I do not want to upset her.
No.
Right, yeah. She'll send shadow babies at you.
And we'll just wait on that. So let's move on from that topic, and y'all be looking out on something coming by Bran and Ashley, right?
Ashi, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we'll I'll work it in. So I mean, I'll probably put it on either my blog or something too, just so it's out there, because it is the part 2 of my Decoding the Long Night, and then there'll be a part 3 probably that's more tinfoil. It's just tinfoil, adding in a couple of my theories that will round it all off and make it a nice, clean story.
I love your theories. They're top notch.
Thank you. Okay.
So a little bit further, if you don't mind, Arya, she asked her father, Eddard, will Bran ever be a knight? And he doesn't sugarcoat it. He says no. But Bran and I were talking, and we found it interesting that Bran very well could be a knight of the Order of the Green Hand.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they are watchers. They are the Green Men. They hide out on the Isle of Faces, basically. I know, not all of them, but
and that's what I was saying. You can either take what Eddard says as foreshadowing and face value, or you can take it for actually everything he says is not true. Yeah. And all of those things are actually possible, because people change, things change, circumstances change. And that's one thing with the story. We know that everything is always changing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's almost all our notes. Do you have them up?
Yes, I have it up.
Okay, you go ahead.
The last thing I have is that Peter deliberately stops Ned from seeking out Jon Arryn's former house servants. So that's after the meeting with Pycelle. He's summoned by Peter Baelish, pretty much. And Eddard is going off, and I forget what he was about to do, but Peter summons him. So he goes and he looks over at the courtyard of the castle of the keep. And Peter is pointing out all these spies as reasons why Ned shouldn't go out and question Jon Arryn's servants, which to me is, it's good to tell him about the spies, but the hand of the king holds a lot of authority. So whoever he seeks out and speaks to is likely going to tell him the truth, or at least speak to him. Whereas Eddard sending off some Northmen that nobody knows, no one respects, they're not going to be cooperative with them. So I think this was Peter making sure that Ned didn't get the information that he was looking for.
I think definitely, and we already know that Sir Hugh had a lot of information, and he was disposed of. If you've read the Elaine sample chapters, you know 100% that tournaments can be rigged, which I think is what happened in this case. I also think the Mountain was told to finish Sir Hugh. And also, we get at the beginning of the chapter, Ned knows, because he thinks to himself when Pycelle is like, anything you need, my lord, I'm here to serve you. And Ned thinks to himself, yeah, but who? So we already know before his conversation with Baelish that he knows not everybody is upright and doing good, and that there are many factions.
Yeah, he is not dim-witted like they keep trying to paint him as.
He's not as dim-witted as people try to paint him as, but he's not as practiced at deceit, half-truths, and cunning as the other people in the story.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And I think even in life, if you're an honest person who does right and gives honest answers, the problem is that a lot of the times you're dealing with people who are not like that. And if you automatically expect for everybody to deal with you on the level of honorability and honesty that you deal with them, you are going to be very disappointed in your life.
Absolutely.
I've experienced that many times.
Absolutely. So those were the end of our notes. Did you have anything else, Jen?
I did not, and I'm going to say that everything that I went over, and I didn't write down anything this time, but just a few little things that I caught while we were going through. Love these rereads so much. But no, let's open it up to the chat. Does anybody have an observation or a question or anything we didn't cover that stuck out to them like a sore thumb? Okay, BBM says, just have to say this. Why you have a Targaryen banner, Jen? At least a Stark banner. Okay, I got my Lannister banner, BBM. I've got my Targaryen banner. And look over here in my hallway. I just ran out of room. And here in the Wolf's Den up in here. But I would also like a Tarly banner and a Tarth banner if I could. But you know how expensive it gets to have the Game of Thrones habit, as I call it.
Yes. Absolutely. Let me see if I can access it.
Like the Lannister banner was almost $20. It's very, very nice. But these two actually came from that site Wish. And they're not double-sided is the deal, but they're only about $7. So that's pretty affordable. Now, but that one came from Spencer's, and it's one of those ones that's like $17 or $18.
Shoot.
Okay, Sanchez. I believe Ned knew his fate going to King's Landing. He messed up his personal honor for the realm, just like Bloodraven did, for killing the Blackfriar and Kinslain. Y'all there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, sorry.
What do y'all think about that? When he got sent to the wall for killing the Blackfriar and Kinslain.
What do we think about it?
Ned messed up his honor for the realm, just like Bloodraven. I think Ned messed up his honor for his children.
Yeah.
But Bloodraven definitely for the safety of the realm. And that's even what he says. Like when he's asked, why did you do that? Why did you go against my express orders? And he said, because till he was dead, this would never be done.
I never caught that parallel there.
No, I didn't either.
It was nice and shit.
Yes.
Implications, I have to ponder them.
We're going to ponder that and get back with you on that. Bran, did you have anything else you wanted to point out? Some kind of theory that this is pointing to, or tenfold, whatever you think?
I can't think of anything right off. I mean, most of my stuff is, I mean, it deals in a lot of heavy parallels with other things, so I don't think we're actually touching on it. We will converse after the thing, though.
Real quick, everybody in the chat, let's go back to Ned and Arya's little tete-a-tete. What did everybody just say real quick? What do you think is going to happen to Arya? Do you guys think that she is going to end up being a warrior queen? Do you think she's going to die in some kind of sacrificial manner? Do you think, what do you guys think?
I think it definitely points to Arya sailing west. I mean, I think that gives a lot of implications there that she will. I guess it would really, to parallel, she would have to take, a bunch of women and children with her. She takes the phrase. That's what she does. She kills all the men and take all the women.
Ooh. That's dark and nice.
My bad.
No, you're good. I like that.
Okay, Sanchez says, no, I think Arya will end up being married with kids. I honestly think if she does live, that's how it's going to go, because she so vehemently denied that was not her, that would not happen. And instead of everything that Ned said being foreshadowing, I more agree that the exact opposite is going to happen. Like, for as much as she denied all of that, I think we might possibly see that actually happening, because never say never in the Game of Thrones, so to speak,
right.
Or in life either, because what you want when you're very young and what you fall into after you've got some years of experience behind you. And, we know she had a little fancy for Gendry in the show, at least.
In the show.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I know that show, but I just think that maybe instead of that being all straight foreshadowing, that's possibly it is, but it means more of an opposite thing. Like,
so I don't see her fitting in after she comes back from Bravo. She's basically an assassin. She's, for one, she's a female. Then she comes back. She's this, killing machine, basically, that can change faces. I don't think she's going to have a place in Westeros. That's why it's going to force her out, basically.
Well, she's now one of the weird things, like bastards and broken things. She fits into that.
Yeah.
Right. So she would be a great candidate to marry someone like Eddard Storm. But she can also sail away beyond Westeros and discover uncharted lands, blah, 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 blah. But that doesn't negate that she would still later on have a family with kids and a husband.
Right. I just don't think we'll see that far.
I think that would be a jip, because Arya is one of George R. Martin's favorite characters, and his wife's absolute favorite character.
She's not allowed to die.
Right. I love her. Do not kill Arya.
I don't know too many people who watch the show who don't love that little killer. I mean,
I don't love my
I don't
girl.
see why everybody loved her mass murder scene. She's a straight psychopath, and everybody commends her for it.
Whatever. Those Freys needed to die. They were supposed to die.
Hey,
half of them weren't even involved.
She let the chick go. That's some kind of compassion.
She didn't kill any of the women.
She completely contradicts herself. She sits there and says, "Rip them root and stem," but I'm going to leave the women. Aren't you a woman that was left? That is completely contradictory.
No, she killed everyone who was responsible for the Red Wedding.
She killed all the men.
But the women were not responsible. Only the one who married, what's his face? Married her uncle was
Rosalind. No, she wasn't. She wasn't even in on it. Really, she knew about it, but she wasn't in on it. I mean,
that's the point I'm making. She knew about it, but she wasn't even in on it. So Arya is perfect in her logic because the women were not involved. It was only those lousy men.
You can't tell me all 967 Frey men, all 967 of Walter's kids were involved in that.
Arya check this out. Clearly believed in family. He clearly believed in family.
Yeah,
of all the bad things we can say about that horrible Walter, he believed in keeping his family together.
Yes,
and doing things as a family unit. So no,
and improving as I don't. There were. I mean, Frey's everywhere. You got Emmon that's married to Gemma that's way over there in Lannisport. You got, how's he involved? He's over at River Run.
About him though. We're talking about the people who were living there, and all the Fremen who were living there were absolutely involved.
No. She said they called all the Freys to there. In that show, in that episode, they brought every Frey man there, is what they said.
Your head's like, no.
I would call that. I will have to watch that over, Bran.
Watch it. She is a fucking psychopath in that moment.
She is,
and that's the whole point of the what's his face? The singer scene. It's to humanize her again, to realize that, hey, these are people that I don't just need to fucking kill everybody. I mean, they were Lannister soldiers, and they still, took her in and gave her food. She didn't have to worry about it. It brought her back to reality. That was the whole point. That scene was supposed to show her as a fucking psycho, and then draw her back in with the singing and Ed Sheeran scene to bring her back in, to say that not all soldiers, not all people are evil just because they fight for the other side.
I think absolutely it was her way to see the other, that the other is not necessarily evil. It's just the other. These lowly men had no choice but to fight for whatever lord they served or land that they were on, even though they probably never met this lord, don't know this lord, have nothing to do with this lord outside of living on their land. Now they have to go put their lives up for this unknown lord high up in his castle. So that, yes, she learned about the other and how the other is not necessarily evil. But those dirty ass Freys all deserve to die. No, they don't. Rob Squire needs to die. Why does Rob Squire need to die? No, not
he's afraid. He's afraid.
But he didn't take part. In fact, they specifically kept.
He's afraid. He's afraid.
And not Gemma's husband.
Okay, well, that's not a statement in my opinion.
Emmon Frey's been sitting there trying to murder Edmure for the whole time they were there. Until Jamie showed up.
Marie has a good point. Bran hears the wolves howling, then thinks of his family and thinks, does it warn of one of his sister's deaths?
His sister or the dire wolf?
Yeah. Is that
I'm asking.
He was killed or after?
I don't remember what part that's in.
And Marie says, as far as this TV show goes, what Walder Frey said, of course, it was Arya in Walder's face, but he said she had gathered every Frey who means a damn thing.
Right.
He said meaning everyone who took part in the Red Wedding, basically.
I wouldn't, but you just sat there and said Walder is a family man. Yes, it's Arya, but she's portraying Walder, so wouldn't you bring in all the Freys be worth the damn thing?
No, because they weren't all involved in the Red Wedding, Bran.
I don't think it's
a straight psychopath.
No, she was only even looking for the people involved in the Red Wedding. So what you're saying doesn't necessarily make sense even. Because why would she even care what they were doing, where they are? Why would she summon them? She is there only to get revenge for the Red Wedding. That's what the scene was for. So we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this, Brian.
Yeah, we're going to have to disagree.
That's the lovely part about it. We always do.
Love you, Bran.
Yep, love you.
Love y'all too.
Okay, I'm checking the chat. I don't want to be left out.
Jake Cruz says, Ned cut a guy's head off for running away from zombies. People do messed up stuff in this story. Agree.
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Arya does too.
Oh, I didn't say she didn't do messed up stuff. I just disagreed that was one of it. One of the messed up things in the books.
Like Jake,
the singer who was, what is his name, Darian or Darius, something like that.
Darian,
She believes he defected.
She did what he was a deserter.
Right. I disagreed that she did that. I understood she was holding the mantle as a Stark, and so she was right in doing that as a Stark. But we find out that this guy was likely innocent of the charges brought against him. So he was just escaping a punishment that was not due to him. So I don't necessarily agree with her murdering him, but I like the fact that she was taking on the Stark mantle, if that makes sense.
Well, in the chat, I believe Marie said, or who said that? She fulfilled the Rat King, Bran's story about the Rat King.
Absolutely.
In the show.
In the show, yeah.
Yes.
But that's one of the few things about the show I really enjoyed. That was delightful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I loved it. I loved that they opened it up with that.
And if you watch, you guys, when they show him at the first or whatever, they show that nasty little finger. And the minute I saw that, I was like, that's going to come into play. That dark and nasty, crusty little fingernail.
Oh, man.
I knew when I saw that we were going to get Frey pie. I really did.
Mm-hmm. I just wish they would have kept it with Wyman, like it should have been.
I
to
would
prove
have
that
liked to.
Winterfell is the night for it.
All right, you guys. Does anybody have anything else? We've been on almost 2 hours. Maybe not quite that much. But we were a bit late.
As always, that's a good review. Good chapter.
I thought so too.
I've come to realize that Bran and Eddard chapters seem to have the most hidden foreshadowings and stuff. Yeah, the hidden. The way I figure it is, Bran is the seer. He knows things. He can see beyond, and I think that's why we get the most foreshadowing from his chapters. It's subtle, it's hidden, but it's there if you look for it, if you dig for it. Eddard, I've come to find out that it's foreshadowing a lot about Jon, obviously, for first off, and then just kings and queens in general. And so, I mean, I plan on keeping a real sharp eye on both those chapters as we go forward. I mean, there's so much involved.
Moving forward, definitely keep an eye on those. Okay, next week we've got John. Who wants to do that?
I don't care.
Is that us? Is that us figuring this out, Bran?
We can, yeah. I mean, I don't mind us going and bringing it to our channel. Me and Agirlis are starting our own channel. It's going to be AB's Corner. We've got the channel set up. We ain't got nothing set up, or, videos out yet. But we're going to start producing our own theories and discussions. And we've already talked to In Deep Geek. He's going to come in, and when we get a good discussion going, I'm actually talking to the Dragon Demands. I'm trying to get him on one of our panels like this, one of the chapter review panels.
That's wonderful.
Well, we had a pretty heated argument for about 2 hours before the stream tonight, and I said, you know what? Instead of fucking arguing about it, why don't you just come and join us and let us encourage each other instead of being negative.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. That's
I called Dan and Dave double dillweeds and turd burglars, and I was defending them.
That is very odd.
I know. Yeah. I was agreeing. I don't know what the hell they were doing. I was just saying, look, I respect Dan and Dave for the fact that their initiative, their ingenuity to get Martin to agree to has made millions of people read the books. That was my only argument, and somehow we ended up arguing over other shit for like 2 hours. No, maybe not that long, but he is a good channel. If you haven't seen The Dragon Demands, he really looks at the show in a different light. Yes, it's a negative light, but he points out some stuff that it really, it makes sense. He pretty much predicted how the Beyond the Wall episode, pretty much everything, how it was going to play out. Not the events, but the acting, the characters. It's really neat. Go check it out if you haven't.
I will. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, he's got some really neat. They're like podcasts. They're like an hour and a half long or something. But he's in depth. He's thorough, and he's good.
I love podcasts. That's what I listen to when I'm cleaning. I've heard every podcast there is to hear on Maura Murray.
I agree, Jake, but I think Bran will be the narrator.
I like that.
I think Sam will be the author, but Bran will be narrating the POVs.
I like that.
I agree.
Thank you, Marie, for coming out.
Yeah.
I hadn't got to see you in a while. Sanchez, Jake Cruz, Cameo, always there. House Sanchez, thank you. Agirlis, Jen, y'all been great co-hosts with me.
Thank you.
Who else do we have? I don't know why I'm doing this. This is your channel. Black man. I'm just taking over.
I guess we'll do book club on here for a minute because Misha's having some family stuff. Y'all pray for her and send good vibes to her. And once you guys get y'all's channel set up, if y'all want to do book club on there, sometimes that's fine as well. We just need to get
up and ready. We just got to do it.
Okay, no problem.
All right. Well, outros. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to be on this channel for a while. And then we're going to be on Bran and Agirlis' channel after that for a while and just kind of spread the love and responsibility around, because I find that really works best, because I know you think, oh, what's the big deal once for 2 hours a week? But you'd be surprised once you get started how much really goes into just setting aside 2 hours a week, especially if you work or have other responsibilities. But just thanks everybody who is in the chat tonight or who is listening later. We appreciate it. And yeah, every Thursday, 9 o'clock, continuing on next week with John. Bran, do you know what number it is?
4, 5, 7, 13. I don't know.
I think it's about John 5 or something like that. Don't quote me. Okay, guys, take us away.
Go ahead, Aggie.
Thanks for having me, and thank you so much for everyone in the chat, from Game of Thrones to Marie to Cami to House Sanchez. If I miss you, I'm sorry. I'm blind and can't see without my glasses. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming out to the chat. Thank you so much, Jen and Bran, for having me on. I'm just a weirdo with some opinions, so I really appreciate it.
We're all just weirdos with opinions.
You're one of my favorite guests. I used to always ask Bran, what happened to a girl is? Where's she at? I mean, I know it's hard to, especially
ever since I came back.
Get her.
She has asked me every week since I've been back on doing these. Get her back on here. Get her back on here. So now we'll take it to our channel, and you got to be on there. Damn it.
Oh, it means everything. Thank you so much. It really does. You have no idea. It's nice to be wanted somewhere. Thank you.
I know what you mean. Yes, you're definitely wanted. Your insights are above the pale.
Thank you. You already have the
Bran the Builder.
Bran the Builder.
I make and I break theories. I'm everywhere. I'm in the Twitters. I'm on the Facebook. I'm on Amino, and we are actually branching out to a new site called Steam It. You might want to, if you want to check out some of our stuff there. We're still just getting started, so we don't have a lot of content there yet, but we will be. It's
Yes.
and if you might be interested into joining us, contact me, and we'll see if we can get you in.
Yeah, this is not a closed group. If you want to get up here and do this, if you think you can do it, I mean, hey, do it. Just do it.
Anybody is welcome on this panel. If you read the chapter and want to discuss it, come hang out with us for 2 hours.
Right. Only requirement is a love of these books and the show. And we have had show-only people on before. I find they bring a different perspective.
Okay.
And
I can imagine.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter if you hate one or the other. Just be respectful of the fact that, you know, it is both, and that, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. We're theorizing like everybody else.
Exactly.
If you don't agree, you don't agree.
Yeah.
You know, I don't agree with some of the things a girl has said, but, you know, I still respect her as a excellent theorist, as a excellent. I mean, we're about to start making videos together, even though we don't agree. So,
yeah, we adults in here, we can agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, you don't have to have people around you who always pat you on the back and agree with everything you say. There's no growth there.
And Angela, hi, she was in here earlier.
Yes, she was. I thanked her. I just thanked her, and Tim and BBM.
Yeah, I wanted to say it out loud though. Okay, everybody have a wonderful evening.
All right.
You do. Night, everyone.
Night.